In the quiet corners of childhood, where imagination blossoms, not all friends are born of light. Some are conjured from the shadows, from the lonely spaces in a child's heart. This is the story of Leo, a quiet 7-year-old boy who sketched his world in charcoal and lived more in his drawings than in reality. His parents, always busy, saw his solitude as a sign of an artistic temperament. They didn't see the fear in his eyes, the kind of fear that follows a child home from a school where he feels invisible. So, Leo created a friend. He called him Zippo. Zippo wasn't like other imaginary friends. He wasn't a fluffy animal or a brave superhero. It was a tall, lanky figure with mismatched buttons for eyes and a smile stitched on with what looked like black thread. Leo drew him over and over, and soon, he didn't have to. Zippo was just there. At first, it was comforting. Zippo would whisper answers to difficult homework questions and tell him which kids to avoid on the playground. He was Leo's secret, his protector. His parents were just relieved to hear him laughing in his room, not realizing he was never alone. Then, things started to shift. A toy car, one Leo hadn't touched in years, would race across the floor by itself. His mom's favorite vase, sitting securely on the mantelpiece, would suddenly be found on the edge, teetering. When asked, Leo would just shrug and say, "Zippo's playing." His parents would share a tired smile, chalking it up to a vivid imagination. But one evening, as Leo's dad passed his son's half-open bedroom door, he swore he saw a second shadow on the wall, long and impossibly thin, flitting away as soon as the light from the hallway touched it. He blinked, and it was gone. It was just Leo, sitting on his bed, smiling a little too widely. The game Zippo wanted to play started to change. "Let's hide Mommy's keys," he'd whisper, his voice like rustling leaves. "It'll be funny." Leo, eager to please his only friend, would comply. The funny game led to his mom being late for work, frantic and stressed. Next, Zippo suggested they fix the brakes on Leo's older sister's bicycle. "She never lets you ride it," Zippo hissed. "Let's teach her a lesson." Leo hesitated, a knot of dread tightening in his stomach, but Zippo's stitched smile seemed to widen, his button eyes boring into him. Fear, colder than any loneliness he'd ever felt, won out. That afternoon, his sister took a nasty fall, scraping her knees and crying that the brakes just gave out. Leo tried to tell them. He tried to explain that it was Zippo, that he was being told to do these things. But his words were met with concerned looks and appointments with child psychologists. "He's acting out," the doctor said. "It's a cry for attention." The more he tried to expose Zippo, the more isolated he became. His parents started locking their bedroom door at night. His sister wouldn't even look at him. He was alone again, but this time, it was worse. He wasn't truly alone. Zippo was always there, whispering, "See? They don't believe you. They don't love you. Only Ido." Leo was trapped, caught between his loyalty to the only friend he thought he had, and the terrifying realization that this friend was a monster. The house grew colder, filled with the faint scent of ozone and the sound of unseen things scratching inside the walls. Desperate, Leo's dad began digging. He stayed up late, researching local history, old town records, anything. He stumbled upon a story from 100 years ago, a house on their very plot of land, a family with a lonely, troubled boy who died in a mysterious fire along with his parents. The boy had a doll, a handmade thing with mismatched button eyes, a doll he called Mr. Zips. According to the old news clippings, the boy claimed the doll told him to do things, bad things. It wasn't an imaginary friend Leo had created. It was an parasitic entity tied to the land, an entity that fed on the loneliness and fear of children. It latched onto Leo, using his imagination as a doorway into the world, and it wanted more than just to play games. It wanted to be real, and it needed Leo's fear to do it. The storm that night wasn't in the forecast. It descended upon the house with a primal fury, knocking out the power. The darkness was absolute, broken only by flashes of lightning. And in those flashes, they saw him. Zippo was no longer just in Leo's mind. He stood in the living room, no longer a shadowy figure but a horrifying, tangible thing of cloth and thread, impossibly tall, his stitched smile splitting wider than any human mouth could. He wasn't whispering anymore. His voice was a chorus of static and screams, echoing from every corner of the house. "He's mine now," the voice crackled, and every doll and toy in the house began to move, their plastic eyes all turning to stare at the family huddled together. The final confrontation was here. Zippo wanted the family's fear, their despair. He wanted to break Leo completely. But seeing the terror on his parents' faces, Leo felt something new ignite inside him, not fear, but rage. "You're not real," he screamed, his voice shaking but defiant. "You're just a bad dream." The final battle wasn't one of fists, but of will. Leo, armed with the knowledge of what Zippo truly was, had to starve the entity. He had to let go of his fear. While his dad frantically searched for the old doll's rumored burial spot in the basement, Leo stood his ground. He closed his eyes and didn't imagine a monster. He imagined his family, happy. He imagined sunlight. He imagined friends at school who weren't made of shadows and lies. He refused to give Zippo the fear it craved. The entity shrieked, its form flickering and distorting as Leo's father finally found a rotten wooden box under the floorboards and set it ablaze in the fireplace. The house filled with an unholy scream, and then silence. The storm outside broke. The power flickered back on. Zippo was gone. Life slowly returned to a fragile normal. The house felt warmer. The shadows were just shadows again. Leo started making real friends at school. But sometimes, late at night, when he's sketching in his notebook, his charcoal pencil will move just a little on its own. He'll find a drawing he doesn't remember making, a tall, lanky figure with 2 circles for eyes. He quickly rips out the page, but he can't erase the feeling. Zippo was banished, but a stain remains. A chilling reminder that when you invite something from the darkness into your heart, it might never truly leave. It just waits in the quiet corners of your imagination for you to feel lonely again. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into the dark, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories from the shadows. Every night, 7-year-old Leo would tell his parents about the monster under his bed. It wasn't just a shadow or a pile of clothes. He described long, spindly limbs and eyes that glowed like faint embers in the dark. His parents would just smile, ruffle his hair, and say, "It's just your imagination, sweetie. Monsters aren't real." But Leo knew. He knew because sometimes, in the dead of night, he would hear it move. It started with small things. His bedroom door, left ajar, would slowly creak shut just as he heard a floorboard groan in the hallway outside. One night, a heavy book toppled from his shelf, landing with a loud thud right where he was about to step. He'd frozen, staring at the book, and from under his bed, he heard a low, guttural growl, almost like a warning. He didn't understand it, but a strange sense of safety washed over him. He wasn't the one being warned. Then, things in the house grew strange. It began subtly. The old grandfather clock in the hall would stop at exactly 3:07 a.m. every night. A cold spot developed in the living room. A patch of air so frigid it would raise goosebumps on your skin, even on a warm day. Their family dog, Buster, who used to sleep at the foot of Leo's bed, started whining and scratching at the door, refusing to enter the room after sundown. Soon, Buster was gone. His parents said he must have run away, but Leo saw the deep, unnatural scratch marks on the inside of the back door. The monster under the bed became more active. Leo would see its dark, hulking shape slip from beneath his bed and stand silhouetted against the window, watching the empty yard. It never came near him, never tried to scare him. It was a silent, looming guardian. One evening, as Leo's mom was cooking, a kitchen knife inexplicably slid off the magnetic strip on the wall. Before it could fall, the pantry door slammed shut with impossible force, the sound echoing through the house. His mom shrieked, blaming a draft. Leo knew better. He had seen a fleeting shadow flicker in the corner of his eye just a second before. The true horror revealed itself on a Tuesday. Leo woke up thirsty and padded out of his room for a glass of water. As he passed the living room, he saw it. A tall, emaciated figure stood hunched over his father's armchair, its form thin and twisted like burnt paper. It had no face, just a smooth, pale surface that seemed to absorb the moonlight. It was slowly running along, gray finger down the family portrait on the wall, leaving a trail of black, greasy residue. A sickening, sweet smell, like rotting flowers, filled the air. Leo's heart hammered against his ribs. He felt a primal fear he'd never known. This was the real monster. This was what the thing in his house was afraid of, just as the faceless creature turned its head towards him. A massive, shadowy form surged from his bedroom doorway. It was the monster from under his bed, now fully visible. It was huge, a creature of sinew and shadow, with limbs that bent at impossible angles and those same glowing ember eyes, now blazing with fury. It let out a deafening roar, a sound that wasn't just heard but felt, a vibration that shook the very foundation of the house. The faceless thing recoiled, emitting a high-pitched shriek that made Leo's ears ring. The two entities clashed. It wasn't a fight of fists, but of presence, of will. The air crackled with energy, as shadows warped and light flickered. The faceless thing withered, its form dissolving like smoke in a strong wind, until nothing was left but the lingering, putrid smell. The guardian monster turned its glowing eyes to Leo. For the first time, Leo wasn't afraid. It felt a deep, unspoken connection, a profound sense of gratitude. He took a small step forward and whispered, "Thank you." The creature gave a slow, deliberate nod, then retreated, melting back into the shadows under his bed. The next morning, his parents found deep gouges in the living room floor and a strange, dark stain on the family portrait. They couldn't explain it, but from then on, when Leo mentioned the monster under his bed, they didn't smile. They listened. Leo sleeps soundly now, knowing he's not alone. He knows that, in the dark, where bad dreams and terrible things lurk, his monster is always there, watching, waiting, and protecting. And sometimes, just before he drifts off to sleep, he hears a low, comforting rumble from below, a promise that he will always be safe. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoy diving into the unknown, be sure to subscribe for more stories.